Hi everybody. I'm new to this. I like watching murder trials. Well, I like watching trials in general, not just murder trials. So I thought I would bring you along with me watching this trial that I've been really interested in to see. I watched the Charlie Adelson trial and I wanted to see the backstory of the other trials that had taken place. So I hope you enjoy sitting back and watching this. There's no fancy stuff. I don't know how to do it. So please enjoy. Let's get started with day one.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, may I publish?
You mind?
I'm going to turn my camera off so you can enjoy it without having to look at my ugly mug. All right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Geiger, I was gonna put this on the overhead, but since it's not working, I'm gonna ask you, may I have permission for the witness to step down, please?
Yes, and if y'all need to reposition.
Sir, if you'll come step down. You can just stand on this side up and down.
Just stand up there.
Yes, Judge.
Don't worry about if you're in front of the camera, that can deal with it.
All right, so if I'm coming southbound on Thomasville Road, would one way to get to your residence be to turn onto this road here, Armistead, and then climb Prescott?
Right.
And then would another way to get to your residence be to come on down here to Benton and take a left there and come the opposite direction down Prescott?
That's correct.
You may resume your seat. Thank you. All right, Judge, may I pass around State Exhibit 1? We don't seem to be able to get this one.
You mind?
All right, so just the old-fashioned way, sir. I think you said that your house is your house. There's kind of two homes in this photograph. Which
Mine
one
is on the right side.
And Mr. Martell's on the left. Is that good?
Correct.
And to the jury, you're gonna see exhibits during the course of the trial. You may see them well, you may not. You will have all exhibits for your consideration in the jury room to study more carefully, so don't feel like you have to memorize anything here.
All right. Sir, I want to draw your attention to the date, July 18th, 2014. Do you remember an event that occurred that day that was a little unusual?
Yes, I do.
All right, let's just let these jurors finish looking at that exhibit. All right, if you would, sir, just tell us what initially got your attention that day, July
Just put it on the
18th,
radar.
2014.
My wife and I were working on a laptop computer in our living room, which faces out to Trescott Drive. And it was just about this time on a Friday morning, which was the 18th. And we both heard a loud bang. We weren't sure what it was. And I stood up immediately and walked to, we have a large window in the front of our house. I think that's called a bow window, but it's a large window. And so I walked there to see if I could determine where the sound had come from. I didn't know whether it come from the right of us or to the left of us. And as I was looking, I noticed a car exiting Mr. Markel's driveway and then proceeding up towards Benton Road on Trescott, and the car moved very quickly. My first thought was that perhaps there had been a burglar attempt next door. We had heard rumors that there were some burglaries in the area.
Overruled.
Some burglaries in the area, and that was my first thought. And so I immediately went outside and walked next door to Dan's house. to see if I could notice that maybe there had been a burglary attempt.
All right, let me
And-
stop you right there for just a moment. I'm going to approach with State's Exhibits 2 and 3.
I just can't see.
So do you recognize State's Exhibits 2 and 3?
Yes.
How do you recognize these exhibits?
Well, these were taken from inside my house on that later that day.
All right, are these fair and accurate images of the view you would have had of Mr. Martell's driveway?
Yes.
All right, Judge, at this time, I'd ask to introduce States 2 and 3.
Any objection?
No objection from Garcia, Judge. No objection, Your Honor.
They'll be admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
Sorry about this, Judge. We're going to get it working.
If anybody
Everybody knows I have not
what's
touched
opening
it.
statement,
Yeah, this is more like how things normally go.
Might speed things up. You look at one and pass it down, so we don't have to wait for each person to look at both photographs.
Done. Okay. All right, we're going to move on while they're working on the technology. So you hear this bang, you look out there and see this vehicle. What can you tell us about the vehicle as far as a description?
It looked to me like a Prius. I couldn't be certain that it was a Prius, but it certainly looked like a Prius. It was light colored. I thought perhaps silver, maybe even white.
All right, and what about the occupants of the vehicle? Did you observe them at all?
I couldn't see in the window. I didn't notice anything. It was just, it happened very quickly.
All right, and were you able to get the tag number of the vehicle?
No.
All right, so we got your attention enough to go out there and look around a little bit. What did you see when you went out there the first time?
As I walked next door to Danny's house, like I said, my first thought was that somebody had tried to break in, maybe tried to break in through the garage. But the garage door was open and the car was in the garage and the engine was running. And so then I thought to myself, well, this must not be a burglary attempt if Danny's here and he's getting ready to leave. And so I walked back to my house again.
All right. Did you continue to keep an eye on what was going on over there?
Yeah, I stood in the front of the house in my window looking out, and I don't know why, but I just stood there for a few minutes waiting for him to leave. And the car never left. And I said to my wife, I think something seems odd. I don't know. Danny hadn't left yet. And so I said, I'm going to walk back and check it out. And so I did. And as I went next door again, I looked, and the garage door, door was still up. The car was still in the garage. The engine was still running. And I thought, well, I guess maybe he's on his cell phone talking, but it just didn't feel right. And I thought, well, I'll walk on into the garage and I'll ask him if everything is okay. So I did. And as I approached the driver's side of the car, I noticed that there was glass right in front of the door. And I immediately looked in at the car at the driver's side through the window, and it had been smashed in, what appeared to be smashed in. And I was startled then to see Dan inside, and his head was bloody. And I immediately said, Danny, what's happened? And there was no response. And I yelled out again, Danny, what's happened? And again, there was no response except that his head was slowly moving from left to right, back and forth. And so my immediate thought then was we had to get medical help there as quickly as possible. And I reached in my pocket for my cell phone to call 911, and my cell phone wasn't there. I had left it in the house on the couch where I'd been originally sitting. So I ran back to my house and grabbed the phone. I came out and started to dial 911. I think my first attempt, I put an extra digit in, 9111 or something like that, but I could see that it wasn't the right one. So I then immediately dialed 911 and to try to get emergency help there as quick as possible.
All right, thank you. I'm going to approach with some additional exhibits, which I've numbered as 5, 6, 7, and also number 4.
How heartbreaking for this man to witness this. Unbelievable.
Meg Banwell would object to number 5 if we could approach sidebar.
Okay.
Judge. I'll object.
Sidebar already? That's quick.
Mr. Geiger, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 5. Do you recognize State's 5?
Yes, it's Dan Markel.
Is that a fair and accurate photograph of your neighbor, Mr. Markel?
Yes,
This is the man who you observed bleeding in his vehicle on July 18th.
Yes.
2014. May I introduce and publish State's 5, Your Honor?
Any objections, State's 5
None from Mr. Garcia. No objection.
be admitted.
Geiger, I'm now showing you what I've marked as State's Exhibits 6 and 7. Do you recognize States 6 and 7?
yes.
How do you recognize these?
Well, this is Dan Markel's house. On number 6, you can see the edge of my house. And number 7, it's a closer up view of his garage.
And is this a fair and accurate view of the state of his garage at the time you observed it on the date that he was injured?
Yes,
Judge, at this time, I'd ask you to review the evidence States 6 and 7.
Any objection,
None from Mr. Garcia. No objection.
be admitted. 6 and 7,
Publish.
you may.
So when you went next door, was the garage door at Mr. Martell's house open?
yes.
And on which side of the vehicle did you approach?
I approached the driver's side, which would be the left as you're looking in through the garage.
You mentioned the glass was broken or smashed in, I think you said?
I think I used the word smashed. It was little pieces of glass were on the floor. And as I looked at the window, it seemed to be it was shattered and there was a kind of a gaping hole there.
And when you're referring to the window, which window are you referring to?
The driver's side window, the front window.
All right, so the window that's in the driver's door.
Yes,
The State's Exhibit 7 is a closer up view of kind of how things were situated when you approached that vehicle that day.
yes,
Let me show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 4. You mentioned seeing a vehicle exit Mr. Martell's residence that morning. Have you had an opportunity to review State's Exhibit 4 prior to today?
yes,
And is the vehicle depicted in State's Exhibit 4 consistent with the vehicle that you observed on the day in question?
yes, it is.
All right. And is there anything about this vehicle that you can say is different from or inconsistent with the vehicle that you observed that day?
No,
All right, I'm going to ask that if you'll just initial State's Exhibit 4 anywhere on there, let us know that that is consistent with what you observed. Were you able to tell anything about the injury? You mentioned that he was obviously injured, but were you able to tell anything about what part of him was injured?
Well, it was his head, and there was a lot of blood. And other than that, he was not responsive, as I said, other than his head rolled back and forth. And when I called to him, he didn't respond.
All right. And was the driver's door to his vehicle open or closed?
It was closed.
And was his vehicle running or not, if you know?
It was running, yes.
And did you touch the car or Mr. Markel at all?
I didn't do either one.
Did you move anything in the garage or do anything to move the car?
No, I did not.
No further questions.
Garcia?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Guy.
Good morning.
Captain, oh. Your house is located to the, your next door neighbor, or you were next door neighbor to Mr. Markel, correct?
That's correct.
And you're on the same side of the street as Mr. Markel?
That's correct.
Oh. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Geiger, Government's Exhibit 3, this photograph, do I need to come closer, sir? Can you recognize?
No, I can see it, yeah.
This photograph depicts one of your windows looking out into what appears to be Mr. Markel's driveway. Is that correct?
Correct.
And after you heard what a loud sound, you were able to look outside your window and see a vehicle moving down Mr. Markel's driveway. Is that correct?
It was backing out.
Was it backing out at a high rate of speed?
Seemed to be, yes.
When you walked over to Mr. Markel's driveway, did there appear to be any tire or screech marks that you saw?
I didn't look.
Did you hear?
Are you talking to the witness or the jury, Mr. Sanganek?
I'm
Why don't
sorry.
you look at us, please, sir?
No worries, Ed. I
Thank you,
apologize.
sir.
Did you hear any screeching tires?
No.
In about how long, and I know this is a guesstimation, about how long would you say that you had a visual of the vehicle that you described?
I would say probably 10 to 15 seconds. 10 probably be closer.
So closer to 10 seconds, sir?
10 to 15, yes.
And during this time where you had this 10-second window, isn't it correct that you are unable to identify any of the occupants of the vehicle, correct?
That is correct.
And so you would be unable to indicate whether or not that there was one or two people in the car, is that correct?
That is correct.
You would be unable to give a description as to what the driver looked like, is that correct?
That's correct.
On your second trip to the Mr. Markel's garage, when you did approach the vehicle and you saw Mr. Markel, did you walk up to the driver's side door?
Yes, I did.
At any time, to your knowledge, did you step on any of the glass that was next to the driver's side door?
I think I must have, yes.
No further questions.
McMahon.
Oh, Your Honor, I have no questions for Mr. Geiger.
Hey, redirect.
Judge, I have one additional area to cover with this witness. I was hesitant to do it because of the technology, but I understand we're going to be able to do it. So I'm going to approach and show Mr. Geiger State's Exhibit 123.
Judge, I would, if this is redirect, if the government.
We'll give you crossed on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Geiger, have you previously had an opportunity to review this exhibit?
Yes, I have.
How do you know this is the same exhibit that you previously reviewed?
Well, I initialed it right here.
And what was on this exhibit?
This is a recording of the 911 call and in its entirety.
All right, and was this call made by you? Is this your voice on the call?
Yes, it is.
And is it a fair and accurate recording of the call that you made that day?
Yes, it is.
And was the call made at or near the time that you perceived these injuries to your neighbor?
Yes, it was, within a couple of minutes of my discovering him in the car when I was then able to make the 911 call.
And is it fair to say that you were still under the stress of the event of observing that site when you made the call?
Well, yes, of course.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask you to evidence states exhibit 123.
Objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection from Mr.
Be admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
Let's see.
We're about due for a break anyway. Well, let the jury step out with the bailiff. We'll take 10 minutes.
Mr. Geiger, we're going to take 10 minutes if you want to step out.
Verification. 2122 Trescott Drive, the T.
Okay, and the phone number you're calling from?
I'm calling from 850-212-4623.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We heard a loud bang and the car pulled away from next door. I came over and looked in, the garage door was up, and I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out, and I came back over, and his driver's side window is shattered, and he's battered and can't answer. He's inside. I don't know if somebody tried to shoot him or if he shot himself or what. I don't know.
And it was at this location, correct?
Right next door. I gave you mine. I don't know his address. It's next door.
Okay.
Did he send an ambulance in a hurry? An EMT. He's still alive. He's moving.
Okay. What's going on with him?
I don't know. The driver's side window is all bashed in. He's inside. The car is running, and he's got blood all over his head. He's not responding to me. That number, by the way, is 2116-2116.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Jim Geiger, Geiger. I think you need to hurry.
Yeah, I'm going to get him on the way to you. I just want to ask you a few questions, okay?
Go ahead, but send them as you're asking.
Yes, sir. They're already on the way, okay? Are you with him now?
I'm standing right outside the garage door.
Can you tell me how old he is?
I don't know. He looks like maybe 35 or 40. It could be our neighbor. I can't tell. It could be the man who owns the house.
And it's 2116 Trescott?
That's right.
Is it Trescott Drayton?
Drive.
Just Trescott Drive.
Trescott Drive.
Hang on 1 second for me, okay?
Okay.
I'm changing the location. It's just Trescott Drive, not Trescott Drayton. All right, sir. I apologize about that. What was the, how old is the patient again? I'm sorry.
I can't tell. He looks maybe 35 or 40. I don't know.
Okay. And is he awake?
He's just moving his head around, but he's not responding. I've called his name, asked what's going on, not call his name, ask him what's happening. He's not responding to that, but his head's kind of rolling around.
Okay. Is he conscious?
Well, I can't tell.
Okay. Is he breathing?
I can't tell that. I'm assuming he's breathing if he's moving his head around.
Did you ever hear him talk or anything?
No.
Okay. You said he's sitting in the car, right?
Correct, in the driver's seat. The car's running.
Is he in the, okay, where exactly is he? In the driver's seat? Yeah.
In the driver's seat.
Is he in the garage or?
In the garage.
Okay.
Let's get the ambulance there.
Police needs to go. Can you direct the emergency crews to him, sir?
Sure.
Okay. All right, I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Just stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
Okay.
If it's safe to do so, see if he is conscious and breathing or moving at all, okay?
It's not safe for me to do. I don't want to put my hand in here.
Okay. Well, help's on the way.
Okay.
All right.
He's standing by.
All right. Is there any other thing? You said there was another vehicle that you saw driving away?
Yes. We heard a noise, a loud noise, and then I looked over and a car was backing up. It looked sort of like it was light colored, white or silver. I want to say it was a Prius, but it could have been a different car, but a small car about that size. And it left the scene rapidly, which seemed to be unusual. There's usually not even a car over there. And I've heard about break-ins in the area, and so I decided to walk over and take a look. And the garage door was open, and the car was running, and so I thought that was my neighbor, and he's getting ready to back out. And so I walked back to my house, which is just a few feet away, and he never came out. So then I walked back over. He's still in there, and I thought I would go up and ask him what was happening. And then I saw the window was shattered, and he's got blood all over his head.
What did the vehicle that was driving away look like again?
It looked sort of like a Prius, but I couldn't tell you for sure that it was a Prius. It was light colored, maybe white or silver. I'm going to be over here waiting for the EMT, honey. Okay, go ahead, but just tell the kids to hold on inside. They're okay. So tell them I'm out here.
All right, just stay on the line with me for now, okay, sir?
Okay,
I got him on the way to you.
Very good. I'm standing at the street, so if I see him coming down the street, I can direct him right in.
So he won't respond to you at all?
Not to me.
Holler at him
in the
or
window.
anything?
Yeah, he didn't respond, but his head's kind of moving around.
Okay.
But I've walked away from the car right now. I'm standing at the street, so.
And he's just parked in the garage? It doesn't look like he crashed into the garage?
No.
Okay.
He's inside, the window's shattered, the garage door was up.
Okay.
Where is the vehicle dispatched from?
I'm not sure. Give me a second. I'll try to see where they are, okay? Is he still moving around?
I don't know. I'm standing at the street now. I'm trying to wait for your vehicle. Did you say you were checking on where it was?
Yes, sir.
Or where it's coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it coming from?
I'm checking.
Okay.
Got several people on the way. Looks like one person's coming from McClay Road.
Okay, let me take them a while to get here then. We're close to the hospital, so.
Mm-hmm.
I know it. I mean, the car is running and he's inside and his head's all bloody and he's not responding, so. Oh, go ahead.
So you're saying his head is bloody now?
Yeah, it's been bloody. I mean, it's the window shattered. I don't know if he's tried to shoot himself. I don't know what the situation is.
It's the driver's side window, correct?
That's correct. He's still moving around, so he's alive.
Okay. Looks like I should have an officer coming up the roadway.
Okay, well, we need EMT.
Well, the officer's going to be there first. They're not going to come until we figure out what's going on, but they're on the way as well, okay?
It better be if this guy's got a shot living.
Yes, sir. They're on the way as well, okay?
Yeah, that looks like he's could be the officer now.
Is he there?
Yeah, he's just coming up right now.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you go, sir, okay?
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Geiger, when you observed the first responder arrive at the scene, that was at the 14-minute and 36-second point into that call. Is that accurate? About?
It seemed a lot longer.
All right. And during the time that we listened to that 14 minutes and 36 seconds, Mr. Markell was still alive and moving.
That's correct.
No further questions?
Cross.
No questions for Mr. President. No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Any juror have a question of this witness? Just raise your hand, write it down on a piece of paper. We'll go sidebar to the bailiff, collect the question.
Oh, I like that when they can ask questions, the jurors can ask questions.
We just want to clarify, Mr. Geiger, which is your house and which was Dr. Markell's house?
How do I make this thing look good?
What's that? Okay, it just button right there.
Oh,
Okay. Little red dot.
okay. This is my house right here. This is Mr. Markell's house here.
All right. Any follow-up from the attorneys?
No, sir.
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, you can step down, Mr. Geiger. Do we need to keep him further? Either side, y'all need him for any reason.
No, Judge.
You need Mr. Geiger held for any reason.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused, Mr. Geiger, free to go about your business. You have a brief witness you want to do before lunch?
Yes, Your Honor. State calls David Sims.
Okay. If you face the clerk and be sworn, please. Have a seat. Slide up microphone, please.
Sir, please introduce yourself and spell your last name.
David Sims, S-I-M-S.
Are you employed, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are you employed?
I work at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Okay. Did you previously work for the Tallahassee Police Department?
Yes, I did.
How long did you work for the Tallahassee Police Department?
28 years.
When did you retire from the Tallahassee Police
In
Department?
October of 15.
All right. I want to ask you about a response to Trescott Drive back on July 18th of 2014. Do you recall that particular call?
Yes.
All right. And to what address did you respond? if you may?
2116 Trescott Drive.
All right. Is that address in Leon County?
Yes, it is.
All right. What time were you personally dispatched or sent to that call?
I don't recall the exact time, but it's probably in the 11 o'clock in the morning hour, somewhere in there.
All right. And do you recall where you were traveling from to that location?
From the station, from TPD.
Okay. And were you the first responder to arrive at that crime scene?
Yes.
Did any other first responders arrive around the time that you did?
Just after me, yes.
Who was that?
Officer Bradshaw,
At some point, did EMS arrive as well?
yes, about the same time as Officer Bradshaw.
Can you estimate how much time passed between your arrival and the arrival of EMS?
3 to 4 minutes.
Did you have contact with a James Geiger there at the scene?
Yes,
And did he point out a vehicle to you?
yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 9. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 9?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
That is the vehicle that was parked in the garage at 2116 Trescott.
Is it a fair and accurate photo of how the vehicle looked when you approached?
When I approached, the doors were all shut.
Right. Other than that, is it fair and accurate?
Correct.
All right. What about State's Exhibit 10? Do you recognize that one?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate photograph of the scene as well?
Yes.
All right. And are there any differences in this photograph from how it was when you first approached?
The driver's door would have been closed. The phone that's on the ground was, I believe, in the victim's left hand, and half of the eyeglasses was in his lap.
All right. So Mr. Markel had been removed from the vehicle at the time these photos were taken. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And is this a fair and accurate photo of how the scene appeared after Mr. Markel was removed from the vehicle?
Yes.
And I'm sure this is obvious, but why did we remove Mr. Markel from the vehicle prior to documenting the scene?
For medical attention.
And I want to show you State's Exhibit 8 as well. Do you recognize State's 8?
Yes, that would be the driver's side window with a partially removed window busted out, and then a partial striation of the glass is still there with a slight rounded area as if something had gone through the window from the outside.
And is that how the window appeared to you when you approached the vehicle?
Correct.
So at this time, I'm asked to introduce some evidence. States 8, 9, and 10.
Any objection?
No objection from Mr. Garcia.
No objection, Your Honor.
8, 9, and 10 will be admitted.
So let's start with State's Exhibit 8. If you would use maybe with the pointer and explain to us kind of what you were describing.
This part of the window was broken out, and then the cracking up here of what remained inside the door, and then right there is a slight curved area in the glass.
And the door was shut when you originally approached, correct?
Correct, the door was closed.
All right, and in this photograph, the door has been opened, as you mentioned, to provide medical attention to Mr. Markel. Is the amount of glass that's present in State's Exhibit 8 consistent with the amount you observed when you first approached, or did a bunch of glass fall out once you opened the door?
As far as I recall, it looked very similar to that.
And you mentioned State's Exhibit 10, observing some items on the ground here. Could you point those out, tell us what you're talking about?
The phone here was in, I believe, in his left hand inside the car, and these half of eyeglasses were laying on his lap.
State's Exhibit 9, this is how the car was when you approached, other than the doors were closed.
Correct.
Was the vehicle running or not?
The vehicle was running.
All right. When you first approached, can you explain for the jury the position of Mr. Markel?
He was sitting in the front seat of the car. Mr. Geiger had told me his name was Daniel, so when I approached the car, I called out his name and I got no response. And I got a little closer, called again, no response, and he was sitting in the front seat, kind of slumped forward, and there was a gasping to his breath. But he was not responding to me, and his arms were down in front of him.
Now, was he able to say any words during the time that you were on scene?
No.
Did you observe any obvious injuries to Mr. Markel?
I saw blood on his shirt, around his face, and then also down onto the seat.
Okay. And you said that the cell phone was in his left hand?
Yeah, and I believe in his right hand was a business card of some kind.
All right. Do you know whether the vehicle was locked or unlocked?
Vehicle was locked.
All right. And what did you do to gain access to the vehicle?
In the picture that had the window that was broken out on the driver's side, I reached in, and usually what standard procedure for me was I had a pen in my uniform, and I used the pen to hit the unlock, not to contaminate any fingerprints, hit the unlock, went around to the other side, opened the door with the pen, opened the door, and reached in, made sure that the gear shifter was in park, which it was, and then turned the car off and took the keys out for the victim's safety and for first responder safety.
Who is responsible for removing Mr. Markel from the vehicle?
The EMTs.
All right. And did the EMTs provide medical assistance that you observed?
Yes.
Do you know what particular medical assistance was provided while you were on scene?
No, I do not.
Did you enter the residence?
Yes.
Did you observe any evidence to indicate that a perpetrator had entered the residence?
No, and myself and Officer Bradshaw and Officer Brandon, we had to use the keys that were taken out of the ignition to unlock the door in the garage into the house to search the house. So that door was locked,
All right.
as were the front door and the back door.
Okay, so no signs of forced entry to the residence?
No.
Was there anything indicating a sign of a struggle or a robbery inside the residence?
No.
Or outside, for that matter?
No.
No further questions?
Trump.
Mr. Sims, good afternoon.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, good morning. Do you know what time the initial distress call was made to 911?
No, I do not.
When did you get the initial call?
I heard the call. My job was I was sergeant and I was a supervisor for the Bravo district, which is basically the northeast side of town. And I would hear the calls on the radio and they would be dispatching officers to that call. I think Officer Brandon was the primary officer sent to that call. And I was at the station. I heard the call go out, but I was working on some paperwork and I finished that up. And then I left the station to go to it. So I wasn't technically sent there. It was Officer Brandon's call. I just got there before him.
So you heard a call, finished whatever work you were doing.
Right.
And then you got to the scene before the person that was supposed to get there, correct?
Right.
Now, roughly how long was it from when you first heard the call to when you arrived?
I'm not sure. I'd have to see the computer-aided dispatch.
Can you give me a guesstimate? Was it 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
It would be less than 20.
And so during that time from the initial dispatch, there's no way, or you don't have any direct evidence as to any of Dan Markel's movements inside the vehicle. Is that correct?
I do not.
And so while you found him with a cell phone in his left hand, you don't know that's how that cell phone was 20 minutes before that, correct?
I do not.
The same goes with the business card
Correct.
or anything else within the contents of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
No further questions.
McMeadow.
No, Your Honor.
All right, redirect. All
No, sir.
right, any juror have a question of this witness? All right, you can step down. Do we need to keep him any
No,
further?
you may be released, Your Honor.
You need him for any reason?
No reason, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused. Thanks for being here. You're excused.
Judge, I do have one other very brief witness if you're interested in that.
Okay.
State calls Stuart Schlazer.
Would you face the clerk here, raise your right hand to be sworn? Have a seat and slide up the microphone, please, sir. May proceed.
Sir, please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name.
My name is Stuart Schlazer, Schlazer.
I
Spell
guess
your
you
first name,
better
please,
spell
too.
Stuart as well.
Stewart.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Schlazer, how are you employed?
I am a music teacher.
All right, how were you employed back on July 18th of 2014?
I just quit my job at the School of Arts and Sciences in Tallahassee to accept the job that I currently teach at.
All right, and do you recall a phone call with Dan Markell that occurred on that date, July 18th, 2014, around 11 a.m.?
Yes.
Did something unusual happen while you were on that call with Mr. Markell?
Yes.
Could you explain what that was?
He said, "Can you please hold on a second? There's an unfamiliar person in my driveway." I said, "Yeah, sure." And then I waited for him to get back to me. He never did. I heard a loud sound, and then I heard him breathing like this. He never spoke another word to me. I asked him, "Are you okay?" I screamed into the phone, "Are you okay?" And then I hung up and texted him, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And then I called 911.
All right. And was the nature of your call with Mr. Markell having to do with your position as a music teacher?
Yes, he was interested in my opinion of the School of Arts and Sciences.
I see. All right. And so he asked you just to hold on because there was someone in his driveway.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
I said, he told me he was driving home, and then it sounds like he got there and saw an unfamiliar person.
All right.
Yes.
And was that the word that Mr. Markell used, unfamiliar person?
Yes.
No further questions.
Frost.
Really quick. Did he say person or persons?
The word that struck me the most was unfamiliar. I believe he said person.
Person.
But it's been 5 years. I don't remember the exact plural or singular form of the word.
Well, you did give a sworn statement to law enforcement in this case, correct?
Yes.
And during that sworn statement, when you described what took place, you said unfamiliar person being signaled, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Banner.
Not this close to adjournment. No questions.
Redirect.
No, sir.
All right. We're going to take a lunch break. Just leave your notes where they are. Be back at 1:15.
Breaks here, we carry straight
We got to
on
work out
through, which is the
where we
best
have
way,
them
really.
I
I
guess
hate all
just
them
come to
breaks.
this hallway. Work that out with them, make sure they understand where to report back. We're on the 3rd floor. Don't want you hanging out over in this area. That's where the witnesses and the parties are. And one of the parties had asked me to comment, and I forgot yesterday, truthfully. They may run into you in the hallway. They're not going to talk to you, even exchange the time of day. That's because they understand the rules or such, okay? We'll let you step out with the bail. Be back at 1:15. You can step down. Do we need to keep Mr. Slazer any further?
No, sir.
Either side need him?
No, Judge. No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused, Mr. Slazer. We're going to stay in session for a few minutes. Everybody be seated. I just want to clean up a couple of things in the opening statement. Both sides talking about people in many instances by first name. We're not going to get into just referring to people by first name. I decided not to intervene since it involved both sides. But I want to refer to people either Mr. or Miss or by their full name. We're not going to get into referring people by just their first name. That becomes a little too casual. We're not going to get into speaking objections. If you have an objection, state your legal objection. If you feel a sidebar is needed, let me know that. I may or may not grant a sidebar. Please don't abuse the sidebar. I've been here a little while. I generally know what the objection means, but if there's something you think I don't understand, then ask for a sidebar. Be largely a matter of how often there are requests for sidebars, my view on sidebars. So, but legal objection, any other discussion should be at sidebar. lunch, I want the state to show, I've added about 15 minutes to lunch, so we had time. I want you to show the defense, the exhibits you've marked, Ms. Kappelman. Y'all stay and look at the exhibits after that. We don't need to go through a big charade of showing it to the other side. You know what's been marked. If you change anything, Ms. Kappelman, let them know. But y'all know what's been marked and what number has been marked on. So we're going to move it along a little bit. Anything from any of the parties? Right.
Your Honor, with respect to the evidence, if the state could, I heard numbers on some of the pieces of evidence in the hundreds. I don't know how quickly we can get through all of that. I don't know if we can do it during lunch. I don't know if the state would be willing to give it to us in chronological order, so that if we can't get through the whole group, we could review tomorrow, also on Tuesday. We're available over the weekend to look at all of it.
I'm not going to get into y'all's negotiations.
Okay.
All right. We'll be in recess till 1:15.
I like this judge. I really like him. No taking no prisoners here.
All right. Court back in session.
You ready to adjourn?
Your Honor, if I may address something?
Okay.
Yesterday, Your Honor, before the motion hearing, I brought up the issue of the conversations we had had with the state about what witnesses they would be calling. This makes the process go a lot smoother, allows us to be a lot more efficient, but also allows us to bring a lot of the gear that we need for the individual witnesses. We were informed yesterday of one thing, we're being informed of something differently today. I believe that the state, they had one of two choices yesterday, to say we're not going to share with the defense what witnesses we're going to call, or actually share the accurate witnesses. Instead, they've told us this is who's going to be testifying, and now it's, well, the lead detective may be testifying as well today too. I believe that's dirty baseball.
Let's have a jury, please.
All rise for the jury.
He's not interested in that.
Everybody be seated. Try your next witness, please.
State calls Joanne Maltese.
If you would face the clerk and be sworn, please. Have a seat and slide up the microphone, please, ma'am.
Ma'am, please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first and last name.
Joanne Maltese, Joanne, Maltese, Maltese.
How are you employed, Ms. Maltese?
Currently, I'm a business owner,
All right, and what about back in 2014?
a forensic specialist at the Tallahassee Police Department
How long were you employed at the Tallahassee Police Department?
for just over 26 years.
And were you a forensic specialist the entire 26 years?
Now, as a forensic specialist for 1999 to 2015.
All right, and what about before that?
Before that, I was in property and evidence section, and prior to that, a dispatcher.
All right, and what were your duties as crime scene analyst?
My primary duties as a forensic specialist is going to be the documentation, preservation, and collection of physical evidence at a crime scene.
And was that your position on July 18th, 2014?
Yes, it was.
Did you respond to a scene on Trescott Drive that day?
Yes, I did.
All right, and could you tell the jury just a little bit about what a forensic specialist does?
I will arrive at the scene, meet with a lead investigator. I will photograph, mark, and collect evidence.
And is that what you did on the scene on July 18th, 2014?
Yes, I did.
All right, and could you tell us a little bit about your training and experience and how to collect evidence that you find at a crime scene?
Training and experience, being a forensic specialist for over 16 years. I've gone at least 1,500 plus hours in specific training, advanced crime scene out of Miami-Dade, crime scene reconstruction. I also taught at the Pat Thomas Law Enforcement Academy, the police academy in this area, and I taught crime scene.
All right, and could you describe what the scene was when you responded on that date?
The entire scene, or?
I mean, was it like inside a house, in a yard?
When I arrived there, the roped off area or the interior of the crime scene was the property line that consisted of the garage, a house, and a vehicle in the garage.
All right, and what testing did you perform in reference to specifically the vehicle in the garage?
I swabbed some of the areas, specifically the interior and exterior of the door handles for possible DNA as well as fingerprinted. And prior to all that, photographing.
How do you collect evidence for the possible presence of DNA?
What we'll do is we will take a sterile swab and use sterile water and touch the area, rub it on the area that I'm potentially collecting DNA from, package it back in the sterile setting, and impound it to be sent off to Florida Department of Law Enforcement for analysis.
And in reference to the vehicle that was in the garage, in this case, what swabs did you take of the vehicle?
On the vehicle, it's going to be the exterior of all 4 door handles, meaning the rear passenger, the front passenger, the front driver's door, and the rear driver's door, the interior and the exterior of those door handles.
And would you be the person to test the swabs for the presence of DNA?
No, I would not.
Okay. What about fingerprints? What efforts did you make in this case regarding trying to find some fingerprints?
I dusted the entire exterior of the vehicle for fingerprints.
With what result?
An area was collected, is developed and lifted from the exterior rear passenger door frame, so around the frame of the vehicle, and it was determined not to be of value for comparison purposes.
What does that mean?
There was not enough information in that fingerprint lift, meaning there wasn't enough information to determine really what it really was.
So not all prints are of sufficient value to make an identification to a person?
Correct.
All right. And you didn't find any on this vehicle that were sufficient to make an identification to anyone?
No, I did not.
All right. And does that mean that no one ever touched any of those 4 door handles and the other areas that you mentioned?
No, it doesn't. And on the door handles, you're using a swab also. So that could potentially destroy any fingerprints, but the DNA is what investigators normally will choose to be collected.
Okay, so the swabbing for the possible presence of DNA could interfere with the fingerprints?
Yes.
And you kind of have to make a decision, because I assume lifting the prints could interfere with the DNA.
Correct.
Okay. So in this case, a decision was made to do the swabbing first?
Yes.
Okay. And so we talked about, not the absence of fingerprints does not necessarily mean that no one ever touched the vehicle. We talked about the swabbing could interfere with it. Are there other things that could interfere with the fingerprint that was left on a surface?
You could wash your vehicle. Road debris or dirt could come on the vehicle. A lot of different things could. Someone could brush up against the vehicle and not wipe it off. I mean,
Are fingerprints always left on a surface that's touched?
No, they are not. No.
Could you explain a little bit about why that is?
When a fingerprint's left, it's the image of the fingerprints that are on your finger when you touch a subject or an object and you lift your finger off. If there's movement involved, you just get smudges, which can't be read. You could wipe it. You could pick something up and put it in your pocket. It's wiped off. Also, there's residue. There could be dust on your surface. So instead of leaving a fingerprint, you're just taking dust away, as well as you may not have any oils or residues on your fingerprints, on your fingers when you touch something.
I'm approaching with what's been marked as State's Exhibits 11 through 18. Please take a moment to look through each of those and let me know when you're done. You recognize States 11 through 18?
Yes, I do.
What are they photographs of?
Photographs of evidence collected from the vehicle.
Are they fair and accurate photographs of the evidence that you collected from this vehicle?
Yes, they are.
Judge, at this time, I ask to move into evidence States 11 through 18.
Any objection?
None from Garcia, Judge.
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right, they'll be admitted. You may.
What are we looking at with Exhibit 11?
Photograph of the interior of the rear passenger compartments of the vehicle.
All right, and these 2 two car seats are located inside the vehicle?
Yes.
What about State's Exhibit 12? What's that show?
A broken pair of eyeglasses that was on the garage floor between the door and the vehicle, the open door in the vehicle.
State's Exhibit 13,
An eyeglass lens.
where was this eyeglass lens located?
I believe that one is the floorboard of the driver's seat.
State's Exhibit 17,
Is going to be the front driver's window,
and what were you attempting to capture in the photograph?
a hole in the window.
State's Exhibit 16,
It's going to be an enlarged or close-up photo of that hole in the driver's window.
all right, is the hole consistent with the bullet hole?
Yes, it is.
State's Exhibit 18, who's this show?
It's going to be the floorboard of the driver's seat.
All right, and what item of evidence are you attempting to depict in this photograph?
It's going to be an overall photograph, but in the photograph, there is glass and a business card.
Business card here?
Yes,
Did you collect that item?
yes, I did.
State's Exhibit 14, what is this?
It's going to be a wallet that I collected from, I believe, the glove box.
Was the glove box open or closed?
I believe the glove box was closed, but I'm not 100%. That would be one of the investigators.
All right. State's Exhibit 15,
That is going to be the money and contents of, a photograph of money and contents of the wallet.
and are you able to see the identification card there? Well enough to tell us who is the owner of the wallet?
Not from this distance, but I might be able to.
I mean, if you need to refresh your recollection of your notes, that's accepted as well.
Yes,
You are able to tell us?
yes,
All right, whose identification is there?
Mr. Markel.
I want to ask you about one other area regarding fingerprint testing. The back doorknob, was that something that you tested?
As far as the entry into the house,
I just have back doorknob. I believe it was an access to the house.
all right, I know I collected a swab of that.
And would that be the door that led from the garage into the residence or some other door?
Either, yes, the door from the garage into the residence.
All right. And that item was tested for, or it was swabbed for the potential presence of DNA?
Yes,
And again, the swab would interfere with the presence of fingerprints?
yes,
All right. And again, you're not the person that tests that swab, it goes somewhere else for that?
correct.
Okay. I want to ask you a little bit about the condition of the car. If you can just explain what condition or what things you observed about the car when you were processing it.
Car seats were in the back, children's items were in the back, broken window on the driver's side.
Did you observe any substance inside the vehicle consistent with blood?
Yes, I collected there was a towel with suspected blood on it, and I believe there was blood on the seat.
Okay. And did you note any casings or projectiles inside the vehicle?
No, we searched the vehicle and the garage for casings and projectiles and did not locate any.
Could you just briefly explain to the jury what a casing and projectile is?
In a bullet, what comes out of the front of the gun is the projectile, and the casing is what that is all in. It's ejected from either ejected, or if it's a revolver, stays in. but it's what remains with the gun.
All right, and none of those items were found inside the vehicle
Correct.
or anywhere else on the crime scene?
Correct.
All right. I want to talk about what you did impound. Approach with states 159 through 165. Start with states 159, you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It is packaged with my signature and my handwriting on it.
And is that item in the same or substantially the same condition as when you impounded it?
Yes.
What is the item?
It's going to be the business card that was in the photo on the driver's floorboard.
And whose business card is that going to be?
Michael Strickland.
Judge, I ask you this item of evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Be admitted.
Next, I'm showing you what's been marked as states 160. Do you recognize 160? And I'm going to show you that together with states 161.
Yes, in my packaging.
How do you recognize these items?
They're both in my packaging with my signatures.
All right, and are they in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected them?
Yes.
All right, from where? Tell us what they are first.
Exhibit 160 is eyeglass frame that are collected from the front passenger floorboard. And states exhibit 161 is presumably the other side of the broken eyeglass frame that was on the garage floor between the driver's door and the vehicle.
Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence states 160 and 161.
Any objection?
Mr. Garcia.
No objection. They'll be admitted without objection.
At this time, I'm publishing states 159. It's the business card that was in the vehicle.
Yes.
States 160 eyeglass from front passenger floorboard. States 161 eyeglass frame broken from garage floorboard front driver's door. Next, I'd like to show you what I've marked as states exhibits 162 and 163. And ask if you recognize these items.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
They are in my packaging from the scene with my signatures and seal.
And are these items in the same or substantially the same condition as when you impounded the items?
Yes, they are.
All right. Judge, at this time, I'd ask you to move the evidence states 162 and 163.
Any objection?
Nothing, Mr. Garcia.
No objection. They'll be admitted.
Ms. Mulkey, states 162.
It's me the lens of an eyeglass.
From where was this located?
That particular one, I would need to see the other side. It's going to be from the front driver's floorboard.
Look at 163 and publish 162. And from where was, well, tell us what 163 is.
163 is a broken eyeglass lens.
And from where was that item?
That one was from the front driver's seat. Yes.
Show you what's the marked as states 164. Recognize 164?
Yes, I do.
What is that item?
Item number 164 is the brown wallet and the contents that were taken from the glove box.
The same or substantially the same condition as when you impounded it?
Yes, it is, minus the cash money.
What happens to the cash money?
I have to impound that separately. It gets held in a separate vault in the property and evidence section.
And are you able to get a better look at this exhibit as to whose identification that is?
Yes.
And whose is it?
Daniel Markel.
Judge, at this time, I ask to introduce states 164.
Any objection?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, to be admitted.
Next, I'm going to show you states 165. Recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize this exhibit?
With my packaging and my originals and my seals.
What is this exhibit?
This is the portion that I could collect out of the front driver's window.
Okay, so the same area that we were looking at in the photographs?
Yes, it's the piece of glass.
And how were you able to extract this without shattering it?
I used clear tape and I taped both sides of the window before taking it out so it wouldn't crumble.
Is it in the same or substantially the same condition as when you found it?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, I ask to move into evidence states 165.
Any objection?
Nothing, Garcia.
No objection.
Be admitted without objection.
May I pass this one around to publication?
But you just kind of walk down and show it to them.
Do I need to scoot forward, okay? Ms. Maltese, were you also asked to photograph Wendy Adelson's vehicle?
Yes, I was.
And when and where did you do that?
That at 3 p.m. on the 7/18 of 2014 at the Tallahassee Police Department.
And was that the same date that you photographed the scene that we just viewed?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you states exhibits 19 through 22. Please take a moment to approve them and revise. Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
I took the photos.
All right, and are these fair and accurate photos of Wendy Adelson's vehicle as it was when you photographed it?
Yes.
This time I asked to move in evidence states 19 through 22.
Any objection?
No objection from Mr. Garcia.
No objection.
Be admitted. But they will be admitted.
Publishing states 19. Publishing states 21. Ms. Maltese, what is picture of state 21?
21 depicts a photograph of a plastic bag with an ABC liquor receipt and a bottle of alcohol that was observed on the front passenger seat.
What brand of alcohol was
Small batch Bullet Rye Frontier Whiskey.
Bullet?
Bullet, Bulleit.
And states exhibit 22, is that a close-up photograph of the receipt?
Yes.
Approach with states 22 and ask if you can inform the jury when the receipt indicates that the bullet whiskey was purchased.
7/18/2014 at 12:49.
Did you go to the hospital to photograph the victim's injuries in this case?
Yes, I did.
Approach with 23, 24, and 25.
Your Honor, may we go sidewalk?
Okay.
All right, Ms. Maltese, back to 23, 24, and 25. Do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize the exhibits?
They're photographs that I took at TMH emergency room.
Are they fair and accurate photographs of the condition of Dan Markel when you took these photographs?
Yes, they are.
All right, and tell us again when these photographs were taken.
These were taken approximately 12:20 or slightly thereafter on 7/18/2014.
Which at this time I'd have to move into evidence states.
Clarify, that'd be 20 minutes after noon.
Yes.
I always get mixed up on which is AM, which is PM, but it's 20 minutes after noon. Okay. 23, 24, and 25 will be admitted.
May I publish?
You mind?
Judge, I think I'd prefer to pass around 23, or I can walk down and do it if that's acceptable. I don't want to.
Okay.
Publishing States Exhibit 24. What were you trying to capture in this image?
A dark stain on his left arm, forearm.
This area here?
Yes.
And do you know what that dark stain is?
It's consistent with stippling,
What's different?
close contact to a weapon being fired. It'll be some of the gunpowder residue.
There's a pointer there. Maybe point out what you're talking about.
Area on the outside left forearm.
And in States Exhibit 25, a close up of that area.
Yes.
No further questions.
Cross.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Maltese.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to ask you some questions with regards to your investigation, if that's okay.
Okay. Yes, I don't do the investigation. I just do collection.
Well, your collection's part of an overall investigation, and that's what I was referring
Would
to.
you just get to your questions, please?
Yes, Judge, of course. I'm going to refer to States Exhibit 7. Ms. Maltese, was that the view that you had as you were approaching 2116 Trescott?
Yes, the inner perimeter. Yes.
And was the vehicle as photographed in this picture in the same position as it was when you got there on that day?
Yes.
And I believe if you look closely, you can see that the driver's side door and the passenger side door are both open.
Correct.
Were you able to take a measurement from the left portion of the vehicle to the wall on the inside of the garage?
I completed a sketch that had measurements on it.
And roughly, what's the distance, if you recall, from the left exterior of the vehicle to wherever there were items inside the garage?
I would have to see that sketch to determine that.
Did you bring that sketch with you today?
No, I did not.
Did you
It's-
turn?
It's part of evidence. It was impounded as evidence.
Okay. And you don't have an independent recollection?
No, I do not.
Did you write that information in a report that you drafted in conjunction with this investigation?
No, it would have been written on the sketch and impounded as evidence.
Were there, well, let's eyeball. Would you say it was a few feet?
I couldn't even guess at this point. I have not been there since that day.
As a crime scene analyst, by simply looking at that photograph and using your common sense and your experience?
Please answer your question. Move on, just a second.
May I see the photograph? Here it's too dark for me even to determine where anything is.
Actually,
There's not a question. We'll ask another question.
sure, no problem. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna provide Government's Exhibit 9. That's a closer view of the vehicle positioned in the same exhibit, well, in the same position as it was in Exhibit 7 for the government, is that correct?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach the clerk?
What's that?
May I approach the clerk to give this exhibit back?
Let's just ask, move on. She couldn't get him at the end.
Based on this exhibit, which gives a closer rendition, can you give a guesstimate of what the distance is from here to here, roughly?
3 to 4 feet?
And you'll agree with me that close to where the driver's side door handle or the driver's side door, there are items directly behind and next to that position. Is that correct?
I don't recall if those coolers that you see in the photograph to the left-hand side were behind the door, which would mean there would be nothing next to the door open to the vehicle. I mean, to the door, the house.
So those coolers were in front of where the door would be, correct?
It appears in those pictures that it's in front or
And are those-
behind.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Behind.
Behind. So if somebody was standing close to that window, where would the cooler be in conjunction to that person? If somebody was standing, pardon me, if somebody was standing right here, would the cooler be in front of them to the right?
If I can recall, it'd be behind them if they're facing the door.
Was any forensic examination, whether it's DNA swabs, fingerprints, done on any of the items to the left of that photograph?
No.
So let's go through it. The cooler, the blue cooler on the bottom, no forensic examination was done on that cooler, correct?
Correct.
The white cooler above it, was any forensic examination done on the white cooler above it?
No, it was not.
Any of the other items that are not photographed, well, let me ask this. Were there other additional miscellaneous items behind? And when I mean behind, I mean closer towards us with regards to the white and blue cooler?
Yes, I believe there was a shelf.
Okay. And you indicated that you guys did was it a DNA swab on the door handle to get into the house?
Yes.
Was any kind of forensic examination done with regards to the shelf or any of the items on the shelf?
No.
Was there any evidence to suggest, well, let me ask you this. There was broken glass on the floor, correct?
Correct.
And was it in any kind of specific pattern or was it in a random pattern?
As if it fell out when the door was opened.
When you got there, had Mr. Markel's body been removed from the vehicle?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that EMS came and, well, let me ask you this. Did they photograph the pattern of the glass prior to EMS coming and removing him from the vehicle?
I don't know what was done prior to me getting there.
As a member of this investigative team, have you seen any photographs that capture what pattern that glass potentially would have formed prior to EMS removing Mr. Markel from the front seat of his vehicle?
No, but if there were any, I would not be privy to that.
Do you know the dimensions and the height from the floor to the ceiling of that Honda Accord?
It would be on that sketch.
On the sketch, okay. Pardon me 1 second, Ron.
You may.
Nothing further from Mr. Garcia.
Madam,
No, Your Honor, no cross.
any redirect?
No, sir.
All right. Any juror have a question of this witness? All right, you can step down. We want to keep her further.
No, Your Honor.
Anybody need her further?
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused. Call your next witness.
Yes, sir. The state calls Carrie Rosanna.
You face the clerk and raise your right hand, please, ma'am.
You swear affirm testimony about giving this case to the truth, the truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Carrie Rosanna, Kerrosana.
Sorry, jumped the gun. How are you employed, Ms. Rosanna?
I work as a forensic examiner with the Virginia Department of Forensic Science in Richmond, Virginia.
And where were you employed back in July of 2014?
I was working with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Crime Laboratory in their forensic biology section.
How long did you work in that capacity with FDLE?
As a crime laboratory analyst, I was with FDLE for 3 years.
All right, what about before that?
Prior to that, I worked as a forensic technologist with FDLE and also in their DNA data bank.
All right, what is your training and education in the area of DNA analysis?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology with a minor in chemistry from the College of New Jersey, and I have a Master of Science degree in genetics from Pennsylvania State University.
All right, what were your duties in the crime lab at FDLE?
My job was to examine items of evidence for the presence of biological materials, and then I performed DNA testing on those items. And I also would perform DNA testing on samples known as standards, which are collected from known individuals. And then I would compare the results from those standards to the results from the evidence to see if that person could have contributed to any DNA found on the evidence.
So the comparison process only comes into play if you find a DNA profile on the swabs from the items, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Were you provided any test swabs to test for the presence of DNA in reference to the death of Dan Markell?
Yes.
All right. And can you tell us specifically whether you were provided any swabs from the car in the case?
Yes, I was provided 4 swabs from different door handles from the car.
All right. And what testing did you perform on those swabs?
The testing that I perform uses a process called PCR, which stands for polymerase chain reaction. And it's a way that I'm able to identify specific areas in the DNA that are known to vary from person to person. And I do that process on both evidence samples and known samples and then compare them.
All right. And what was the result of your testing of the DNA swabs collected from the car?
For the DNA swabs collected from the car, I obtained limited results, which means I did not develop very many DNA types. And because of that, I couldn't make any comparisons to those DNA results.
And what if, assuming someone touched that car and shed some skin cells, what could interfere with your ability to collect enough data to make a comparison?
So there are a number of factors to consider. If DNA had been deposited, then the UV light from the sun or heat or moisture can break down the DNA, which would result in limited results. Also, if someone touches a surface, it's not guaranteed that DNA will be left behind. So there are a couple different things that can affect that, such as the length of time they touch it. So if it's very brief, it's less likely. If they hold something for a long time, they're more likely to deposit DNA. Also, the frequency, the last time they wash their hands. If they've just washed their hands, there's going to be less free DNA potentially than if it's been a while since they washed their hands. Also, the force of the contact, the surface, whether it's smooth or rough, all of those can affect whether DNA is deposited if a surface is touched.
So basically nothing of value from the car as far as DNA swabs.
That's correct.
All right, let's move on to the doorknobs. What swabs were you given to test in reference to doorknobs?
I had a swab of an exterior doorknob to the house from the garage.
All right, and what testing did you perform on that item?
The same DNA testing as I previously described.
All right, and with what result?
Again, the result from that was limited DNA results, so I couldn't make any comparisons to that sample.
No further questions.
No cross from Mr. Garcia, Judge. No problem.
No cross, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any juror have a question of this witness? All right. We need to keep her further,
No, sir.
but need her further.
No, thank you, Judge.
All right.
No, Your Honor.
You're excused. Thank you, Leah. Call your next witness.
State calls William Cornegay.
Come on up here, please. If you face the clerk, raise your right hand and be sworn.